Hello and welcome to Threefold Herbal Healing. I'm Herbalist Leosade. I help people who are sick and tired of being sick and tired, people that struggle with chronic condition and need help growing their health from the roots up. This is the fourth video in a series of 4 videos about the connection between our inner clock and the cosmic clock. And when I talk about the cosmic clock, I generally talk more about the circadian rhythm of sunrise and then the journey of the sun during the day um, in the sky and then sunset. So let's dive right in. The Earth rotates, we know that, and as it's rotate, it's exposed all being to a 24-hour cycle of light and darkness. We call that cycle the circadian rhythm, and it's a fundamental feature of human physiology, but also of mammals' physiology, I think in all beings' physiology, that developed over millions of years as part of our evolution as an essential for our survival. The hypothalamus is the central clock, but each cell in the body has its own clock, and the hypothalamus and those peripheral clock communicate all the time. So the hypothalamus send messages, and the peripheral clock might send feedback. So it's like this coming and going of information. The main signal that set all the clocks is light. Changes in light throughout the day and with the changing of the season, because quality of light change in every season, sends hormonal signals from the central clock in the hypothalamus to the peripheral clocks in the cells, including the cells of the reproductive hormones. And today I'm focusing really on women's reproductive system and how it is affected by light and darkness, by the cycle of sun during the day and night. The women reproductive cycle is about 28 days, about the same length as an average month. In many cultures, they associated the moon with fertility, but modern science don't find any evidence to it. And it's largely dismissed as a myth. Several studies, though, do find connection between lunar phases, sleep and mood, but not reproductive system. That doesn't mean that there is no connection. It means that so far we don't know of any connection. From puberty to menopause, your ovaries produce estrogen, progesterone, and testosterone. The process of making reproductive hormones have a couple of steps. First, cholesterol is converted into pregnenolone, the mother of all reproductive hormones. Pregnenolone converts either to DHEA or to progesterone. DHEA is a precursor or a building block for estrogen and testosterone. Progesterone, on the other hand, is a precursor or a building block for cortisol and aldosterone. Women's reproductive system or hormones buzz all your cells all the time. And they create like highs and lows, very much like the tides of the sea. Those highs and lows create your monthly cycle. And they actually create 3 very distinguished phases in the monthly cycles. You start with the follicular phase, then you go into ovulation, and you end your cycle in the luteal phase. So let's talk a little bit and explain what each phase is and what hormone is dominant in each phase. The follicular phase is the first phase, and it begins on the first day of your menses, when you start bleeding. The pituitary gland releases an hormone that is called follicle-stimulating hormone. This hormone reaches the ovaries and cause them to create follicles in the ovaries, and those follicles start to secrete estrogen. That estrogen help the eggs inside the follicles. That, just to make it clear, those follicles are like small sacs, or like a place where your eggs can grow and be nourished, and they are the one that produce the estrogen. The estrogen make the eggs develop, but also thicken the walls of your uterus and create this warm tissue full of blood that can welcome an embryo. Estrogen levels rise during follicle phase and peak right before the ovulation. About 14 days into your cycle, the pituitary gland will release another hormone, luteinizing hormone, or LH. High level of LH trigger the ovaries to release one mature eggs from the follicle and send it to be implemented in the uterus. There are other things that drive ovulation. One of them is the peak and then drop of estrogen, and at the same time, a slow and steady increase in progesterone. The other thing is the sun. Most time than not, ovulation will happen between midnight and 6 o'clock in the morning, which make total sense to me. Because if you think about our forefathers, our ancestors, the hunter-gatherers, out there in the open space, in the savannah, in the woods, wherever they were, seeking food during the day, they didn't have time to procreate. Also, if they would try to procreate, it will leave them very vulnerable to predator. On the other hand, during the night, when they were in shelter, it was much safer to procreate. So as a survival mechanism, it made more sense to be in ovulation during the night. Following the ovulation, we are going into the luteal phase. Once the follicles that house the eggs release the eggs, about 15 days into your cycle, estrogen level drop and progesterone levels steadily increase. The luteum, the corpus luteum, is those sacs where the eggs was, but now they are still there. And they are the one that produce the progesterone now. Progesterone stimulates blood vessel and to bring a lot of blood into the endometrium. Endometrium is kind of the layer inside the embryo. And that blood will provide nutrient and oxygen for a developing embryo. So that's the role of progesterone. On the one hand, it stops tissue building by estrogen, but then it makes this tissue more nourishing, more full of nutrient for the egg. If the egg is fertilized, progesterone is keeping on the viability of the embryo in the uterus. So it's not going to stop producing progesterone. But if the egg is not fertilized, progesterone levels will drop, and then you will start your menses. So Progesterone and estrogen are like two sides of a seesaw. In a proper proportion to each other, they shift rhythmically and balance each other. The problem begins, of course, when there is no proper proportions and things get out of whack. But let's talk a little bit about estrogen and what it does for us and how it's connected to the circadian cycle. Estrogen is actually known as the women hormone. It's mainly produced in the ovaries, in the brain, in fat tissue, in the stomach, in bone, and in the skin. So in a lot more places that we think about. I mean, I learned that it produced in the ovaries and that's it. And suddenly it's produced all over the body and it's actually affect every part of the body. Therefore, if you are out of whack with your estrogen levels, everything is out of whack. It is responsible for, the pear share shape of women's body, and it's produced in the first part of your moon cycle. It's like the fire in your eyes. It's like the fire in your libido. It makes you obsessed with procreation. But it also gives you a high because it regulates serotonin and increases dopamine secretion, which makes you calm and satisfied. Now think about what happens when you get into premenopause and menopause. Estrogen and the circadian cycle have like bidirectional connection. In the brain, estrogen can bind to receptors in the hypothalamus that are involved in melatonin and serotonin production, which mean that it affects when you produce melatonin and serotonin. If you have low estrogen, you have difficulty falling asleep, you have difficulty staying asleep. You wake up really early in the morning, something like 4 o'clock or earlier, and you can't fall asleep again. You don't have enough deep sleep, and your quality of sleep is very disturbed. If you're a woman in premenopause or menopause, you might have an aha moment now, and you say to yourself, now I get why I toss and turn so much at night. Also, estrogen. It have an effect on your daily metabolic rhythm and the regulation of your body's temperature. Lower estrogen is associated with lower metabolic rate. So no matter how much you eat, you have a hard time losing weight. It's reduced insulin sensitivity, so you might become pre-diabetic. It decreases sensitivity to satiation, so you feel hungry all the time and you never feel satiated. And it increased fat deposit around the waist. So when you gain weight, it's mainly around the waist. Another hormone that is affected by estrogen is oxytocin. Estrogen increases oxytocin and oxytocin receptor density in the brain, which mean that oxytocin have more effect on you. It makes you more loving, more trusting, more caring human being. On the other hand, the circadian cycle affects estrogen levels throughout the day, with estrogen peaking in the early morning and gradually declining throughout the day and being lowest at the evening and night. Now let's talk progesterone a little bit, because you really can't understand estrogen without discussing its body or twin progesterone. In addition to balancing estrogen in the reproductive system, progesterone has a role in sleep and in metabolism. Progesterone promotes a good night's sleep because it affects GABA receptors activity. So the timing of when you fall asleep and the quality of your sleep and the duration of your sleep is affected by progesterone levels. Low level of progesterone might keep you up at night, while high levels, such as in the luteal phase, just before your period, you might feel very fatigued. And a lot of women say that in the week before their period, they feel fatigue. Progesterone also promotes thyroid health and boosts metabolic rate, energy, and vitality. It acts as a diuretic, meaning that it helps eliminate excess fluid and reduce blood pressure. In the evening, progesterone reduces the temperature of the body, so you can fall asleep better, because we know that you need a cool body in order to fall asleep. Progesterone also have a calming effect on the nervous system, and it increased resilience to stress. It's important to know all the things, because progesterone is the first hormone that's reduced during premenopause and menopause. So you have less GABA, you sleep well, your resilience to stress is reduced, your thyroid, your metabolic rate is reduced, and you tend to gain weight, and you lose some of the protection to your cardiovascular system that you get from progesterone. Progesterone too fluctuates with the circadian clock. It is in IS between 6 and 8 in the morning, and gradually declines until it reaches the lowest level late in the evening, and during night it's more or less steady. The endocrine system is the most complicated system in the body. Although hormones are secreted in really minute amounts into the blood, they play a huge role in regulating all the biological processes that are crucial for our survival. At the same time, those minute amount of hormones connect us to the vastness of the universe. Poets and seekers try to capture the mysterious connection between the singular and the whole. William Blake wrote, "To see a world in a grain of sand." And the alchemist said, "As above, so beyond." The logical mind can explain the connection between the inner clocks and the cosmic cycles. But the body is one with the cosmos. It is dancing to the celestial music. This was the last video in this series of video about the connection, or the way we dance with the music of heaven. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you benefited. I would love to hear back from you. Please leave comments in the bottom, in the comment part, and share it. If you enjoyed it, if you benefited, share it with other people. Let them enjoy it too. Thank you. And new month, new topic. Stay tuned. Bye.